How might we overcome social isolation in elderly Australians? Currently, this issue affects roughly 1/5 of Australians, with loneliness rates continually rising. A study conducted by the Relationships Australia study found 1 in 4 over 65s living alone had increased emotional loneliness levels. As a way to overcome this, the service I have developed includes an in-home technology support service to develop users' skill level and be comfortable in the new world of technology. Uniting Care Queensland currently offers services that slightly touch on parts of the customer journey, including lifeline, counselling, family support, aged care support, and hospital services. Subsidiaries under the Uniting Care Queensland brand include Lifeline, multiple hospitals, Blue Care, and ARCs. These services provide support for people suffering with mental illnesses, disability, aged care, nursing care, hospital services, and regional support services. Numbers of elderly patients utilising aged care facilities are expected to increase fourfold by 2047, with a majority preference for independent living arrangements and greater autonomy and choice in aged care services. This ageing population has the lowest rate of computer usage amongst the population, thus resulting in those without the skills to use computers and the internet being excluded from society. However, user expectations towards technology and inability of the user themselves can result in fear of cyber illiteracy. Therefore, it's recommended to tackle these barriers, ensuring the service or product is easily understandable, easy to use, fully functional, and corresponds to age-related requirements for ageing Australians. Whilst also keeping patients connected, there is still a need for greater technology readiness in ageing healthcare, meaning the adoption of more sustainable, scalable, and innovative solutions in Australia. Integrating new technology in aged care will provide support for both healthcare providers with smoother, more efficient systems with a more connected and personalised level of care. Considering this information, the market need for technology support and integration is high, as this will provide a more streamlined process of care, allowing patients and their carers to stay connected at all times, whilst also allowing the elderly to keep connected to friends and family, minimising the risk of loneliness and other mental illnesses associated with social isolation. According to aged care provider Japara, digital technology is set to play a more visible role in aged care services across Australia, from online websites to possibilities including smartwatch-style monitoring devices, robotic assistants, etc., allowing nurses to free their time of administrative duties in order to tend to residents' social and emotional needs. The persona profile for whom this service is being designed for is Valerie Smith, a 73-year-old woman living at her home with her 2 cats in Brisbane, Australia. Born in 1946, she grew up in Brisbane, marrying her husband Jack Smith in 1967. Growing up, she lived in an old Queenslander-style home with her brother Bert Turner. Jack passed away in 2014, leaving Valerie and her 3 children, 2 daughters and a son. Her 2 daughters have recently moved to Melbourne, whilst her son continues to live in Brisbane with his family. Her son is married with 3 children, all under the age of 13. Valerie has owned her 2 cats since 2013 that she bought with her husband before he passed away. Valerie regularly attends group activities recommended to her by her son, however has had some difficulty accessing these classes and she does not have regular access to a car or transport. Classes range from craft, walking and tourist attraction visits. Her son often visits at her home, however rarely sees other people outside of the group activities. Her son has stated she often complains about boredom and loneliness when home alone, and sometimes has depressive symptoms, which could be linked closely to social isolation. Her hobbies include TV, knitting, walking, and craft. She adores her 2 cats, Spot and Sam, and spoils them regularly. Her son gifted her with a brand new iPad to stay connected to old friends and her family, however, lacks the knowledge how to use it or its full functions. As shown in the customer journey map, Valerie begins by researching providers of her desired service through Google searches and advertisements through aged care homes and newspapers, as part of the awareness stage in realising the problem. After finding the company she believes is best, Blue Care, she makes the decision to phone the company to find out more information and receive a better understanding of their services. This is part of the consideration stage where Valerie compares her options and ultimately decides on a company. Moving into the decision stage, Valerie starts by shortlisting Blue Care as an option once she is aware of the fees and costs associated with the service. Once Valerie has made her decision, she participates in the service. However, beforehand, Valerie asks herself some questions to ensure she is making the right decision. Once certain Blue Care is the best option, Valerie goes on to participate in the service. As outlined in the empathy map shown, it is evident Valerie would like to be more technologically savvy, as her loneliness is mostly due to limited socialization as she doesn't know how to use her iPad iPad and does not have regular access to transport. By trusting the empathy map shown, it is clear Valerie's quality of life would be greatly increased once she has undertaken lessons on technology. By using her iPad, Valerie is able to stay connected to her family and friends through social media platforms, as well as have easier access to organising transport. By creating this service, Uniting Care are able to help Valerie overcome her social isolation through increasing socialisation opportunities, whilst giving Valerie the skills to organise transport, overall decreasing the risk of loneliness. Stated previously, my recommended innovation is to offer in-home tech support and teaching for elderly Australians. Inspiration for this prototype comes from prior research to determine the most desired service in the current society. From previous research, it is evident elderly people lack the knowledge and skills when it comes to newly developed technology such as iPads, mobile phones, tablets, and even smart TVs. This service draws on the premise of technology incompetency in the majority of this age group. This design sprint conducted during week 8 helped to package and integrate the theories and ideations throughout the semester, allowing for a cohesive idea to form. When developing a service, there are multiple design principles to assess when creating a service prototype. The prototype must be user-centric, meaning the design must be based upon the experience from the user's perspective, such as research previously conducted. Another principle used was co-creation. When talking to various family members in the persona's age group, they expressed design input to help create a feasible service. Other design principles used include visual communication and a holistic approach. By creating a visual prototype, users are able to clearly see and experience the service before it has been created. Using a holistic approach encompasses the entire user journey and considers each touch point. Using divergent thinking, this prototype is the most effective option for this service. This involves an idea followed in several directions that leads to multiple ideas stemming from the one before. Divergent thinking generates multiple ideas without judgment before evaluating them. When considering the client brief, Uniting Care Queensland are after a method to address the problem of social isolation amongst the aging 65 plus. By utilising divergent thinking, multiple ideas were formed before deciding on the most desirable, feasible and viable option. This prototype represents responsible behaviour and values through allowing elderly Australians to further their knowledge and skills in technology. With a growing world, technology will soon be the easiest and most accessible form of communication. Therefore, providing lessons on how to use their technologies allows for Uniting Care Queensland to positively impact the community. Key legal and ethical considerations when creating a service within this brief include various laws regulating in-home care, as well as the carer's duty of care, consent, scope of practice, negligence, code of conduct, and code of ethics. There are several laws regulating the aforementioned legal and ethical considerations. However, this prototype seeks to provide an efficient and effective form of learning for ageing Australians to gain technology skills. When considering the service blueprint, Blue Care would be the best partner to deliver this service as it complements services already offered by this provider. As evident through prior research and market research conducted, this prototype would be a highly regarded service for Blue Care to offer as part of Uniting Care Queensland. After demonstrating the prototype to a person similar to the persona profile, feedback ensured the service was useful, easy to use, and beneficial. Feedback suggested it be a service added on to prior services already requested by the client and therefore scheduled in with normal visits. When considering the EAST framework, the prototype must be an easy decision to use, attractive to the target market, have a social element to the service, and have the correct time to prompt the client. Regarding feedback of the prototype, the service positively meets the standards of the EAST framework, meaning the service is desirable to the target market. The cost for this service to be implemented should be relatively low cost, with the only fees being the added website features of the new service, any social media marketing, and the fees associated with ensuring nurses are technologically savvy. After this initial cost, the maintenance cost will stay low to maintain the service with regular reviews. As for competitors, there are currently no other organisations like Uniting Care Queensland that offer this type of service. However, there are targeted technology training companies. For Uniting Care Queensland to implement this service, there is added value for both existing clients to start receiving this service, as well as future clients having the opportunity to group services together. The expected demand for this service should be fairly high, with an estimated 3.6 million Australians over the age of 65. A study conducted by ACMA states 79% of older Australians have gone on the internet at some point in their life, with 85% of those using the internet at least once a day. Although the numbers seem high, that equates to roughly 2,844,000 older Australians that have used the internet before, and 1,417,400 using the internet once a day, leaving 1,182,600 older Australians not regularly using the internet. To combat elderly Australians dealing with social isolation, it is recommended for Uniting Care Queensland, in partnership with Blue Care, to implement in-home tech lessons for ageing clients. Through research, it is evident this service is desirable, feasible and viable. With lower skill levels across the age group, together with low initial and maintenance fees, this service would be a beneficial and successful service to add value to Uniting Care Queensland's existing offer.